What's up, guys? It's your boy Rich here. So can the bad boy of watches make a watch that's actually good enough for the Italian military? Memphis Belle thinks so. Let's go check out their Predator Heritage HM4. Let's go. And here it is in 46 millimeters, 51 from lug to lug, 13.5 millimeters tall, and it's with a 24 millimeter lug width. And I have to thank Valentino and Memphis Belle for sponsoring this video. So let's return back to the size, because I'm sure a lot of us are a little bit hesitant when we hear that it's 46 millimeters, because admittedly, so was I. I thought it might be too much on the larger size for my 6.5-inch wrists. But fortunately, it is not. And that's largely due to the cushion case and the very short, stumpy, and immediately downwards angled lugs. That makes it really wearable to me. So let's stay right here on the dial, because it is a good one. Typically, a watch will use a dial that has some texturing or the ever-popular sunburst effect dials. Memphis Belle doesn't use either one. Instead, they use what I call a marble dial, or is it marbleized? Marbleized. I'm going to stick with marble dial. It kind of sort of reminds me of a finely marbled steak. It just has that effect, and it works really well on this particular model. And I think the most striking element of the dial has to be that mythical skull holding the rose at 12 o'clock. Another noticeable element on the dial has to be the sub-dial seconds hand at 9 o'clock. And that's because my version is a manual wound at a Unitas 6497 with 40 hours of power reserve. But Memphis Belle also makes this same version using the automatic movement. And one way to differentiate between the manual wound and the automatic movement, at least on the dial, is the automatic version does not use the sub-dial seconds hand at 9 o'clock, and it uses the ETA 2824. So we're going to also notice the text on the bezel inlay and on the dial in Italian. So I am going, and by the way, that is not stamped. Each lettering is hand engraved on the bezel inlay, really giving it that nice work of art look, because it literally is a work of art. So I'm going to sum up what all that text means. I am not a military historian. I am not that person. So I am going to read off of Memphis Belle's website. So the text on the bezel and dial are tributes to a secret department of Regia Marina for the use of underwater and surface assault vehicles that were high risk to operate because they were new. So between 1941 and 1943, a few hundred men risked their lives, which led to modified strategies of the Mediterranean. And I think that is a really cool story behind the making of this watch that inspired them. It's a really nice tribute, because Memphis Belle also makes watches for the Italian, Norwegian, and Dutch military. So they do know what they're doing. And this is not a new company, by the way. They've been around for more than 2 decades. And Memphis Belle kind of sort of reminds me of the way Panerai was maybe 10 years ago, at least in the U.S. Prior to that, Panerai was so revered in Italy. And then they seemingly just blew up overnight in the U.S. market, largely thanks to Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and Statham. But I also think that was Panerai's downfall as well. I mean, if you were anyone in Hollywood, you owned a Panerai. But they grew just too quickly, just way too soon. And part of Panerai's allure was their exclusivity. But then, like I said, almost seemingly overnight, anybody that wanted a Panerai could get a Panerai. That's a totally different video. But there are some parallels here. But in the case of Memphis Belle, they are also revered in Italy. And they want to get a foothold in the U.S. But I don't think they want to follow in Panerai's footsteps after learning of what happened to Panerai. At first, Panerai was a darling for every watch, right? They were also responsible for the oversized watch craze. So I think in Memphis Belle's case, they want to be somewhat cautious, but also somewhat aggressive in getting a foothold of the U.S. market. And I think that is going to work really well for them in the long run. So while my version is in green, it's also available with a meteorite dial and black. And this is what they call the new bronze, meaning it will age or patinate right in front of our eyes. But it also is available with a 5-year version, meaning it's meant to mimic the way that this watch would look 5 years from now. And they also have a super patina version, which is meant to mimic how this watch would look 50 years from now. And they achieved that look with a diffused blue bronze oxidation. I think that is a really cool look. It's probably not a look that I will naturally see in my lifetime. So if you're like me and you're not planning to see your watch naturally age like that 50 years from now, but maybe you want to leave the watch to somebody who will inherit a watch that looks like that and will probably refer to it as gross. Gross. Until they learn that that is not gross and just the best part of bronze. So, if you want that 50-year-old look, I think that is a look that we can actually appreciate during our lifetime. I think it is a really cool look, and I was actually torn between that look and the new bronze look. The strap is also worth pointing out. This is a handmade Italian leather strap, and there is their logo on both sides of the strap, and it's done in a nubuck finishing. And if we thought the strap might be on the stiffer side, we would be wrong. This is a very soft and supple strap right out of the box. And the biggest thing I wanted to point out is the buckle. Typically, a watch will have the buckle branded, but in the case of Memphis Belle, they've literally elevated the game on the buckle. Here we can see that it is raised, and it is not just branded, it is of a torpedo. So again, Memphis Belle has just added a lot of nice touches to a really finely crafted watch. So here is their solid case back, and we're going to see that it is a limited edition. Mine is number 37 of 500. I think everything about this watch is just exquisitely made. It's just really substantial in the hand, and I just think it looks unlike any other watch. I also wanted to share the unique presentation that our watch comes in this really cool wooden box. And you're probably going to notice the two same things that I did. So let's start with this metal plate right here. Let's get a closer look of it. There it is right there. Really cool with the mythical skull holding the rose. And I believe Memphis Belle sells just this metal portion kind of sort of as a dog tag or a pendant. Just a really cool touch. And the other part that I wanted to really show you was the top of the box, because it reminds me of a submarine window. And I believe the actual window here, right here, is made of genuine copper. So we just got done looking at the really nice leather strap, but there's more. And that's because inside the really cool presentation here, there's a tool to change out the bonus rubber strap that the watch comes with. So I also wanted to compare this unique presentation to another presentation, because I was trying to draw some parallels with Panerai. And so here is my Panerai box right here. That's nothing fancy about it. It's a straightforward box with Panerai right there. So if we compare the presentation with the Panerai to Memphis Belle's, I don't think there's really a comparison with its presentation. The retail price of the HM4 is $1,560. So for around $1,500, $1,600, we are getting a really nicely made Swiss-made watch that doesn't look like any other watch out there, and that is really well made inside and out with that trusty movement. This is not a gimmicky watch with a skull and rose that is cheaply made. Even before I held this watch in my hands, when I unboxed it or lifted the lid to the box, I could immediately tell that this watch just screams quality. And of course, it ended up to be just that. If we're looking for a fun and cool watch, again, that doesn't look like any other watch, by a brand that has some real history behind it, that makes watches for certain militaries, a watch that is actually waterproof to 300 meters, then I think the Predator Heritage Series can be a great option for us. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time. And so if we're talking about the Memphis Belle, Memphis, when did I start getting a southern accent? The Memphis Belle. Memphis Belle has been around.